Recently, the Lagos state government demolished several properties within the quarter axis. And guess what? All of these things could have been averted. I know it's okay. Most of us are currently blaming the government, some are blaming developers, some are blaming this and that. But truthfully, those things are not going to get us anywhere. These are things that have happened before, and believe me, it's going to happen again. So, what can we buyers do to avoid being in a scenario like that? All right, come close. Let's talk about it. So, being a realtor, I've experienced all of these up and downs of safety. I mean, the other time, several properties within their area access were demolished, and most people were crying out. I mean, they spent so much money to buy these properties, only to have it going like nothing. So, I understand how painful that must be, but now we're talking about solution. What can we do, and how can we address this thing so that things like that doesn't come up again in the future? And more importantly, you do not get to be a victim, or your friends and loved ones. So my name is Salome Bassi, and I'm a realtor here in the city of Lagos, and currently representing real estate research. So if you're ever looking forward to buying a property, we're here. I'll be happy and delighted to help you make the perfect decision on the right property for you within the Lagos real estate space. So let's talk about what we can do to avoid being victims of property demolition and any scenario relative to that. So the number one thing we can do as buyers is, number one, charting the coordinate of a property. What is a coordinate? A coordinate is a unique number attached to a property. Just like you and I have names. I mean, your name is Austin. Yes, I know it's you, Austin. So yes, that is your name. How about properties? Properties has unique numbers that becomes their own unique names as well. And this thing, instead of Austin in this case, it comes in like a number. So charting the coordinates of a number of a property rather would give you more information and insight about that property, to understand the history of that property, and to be sure that that property is not within a government acquired real estate. But I'm talking about real estate, I'm talking about territory. So how do we go about charting a coordinate? Before I even go about that, let me share a personal experience and scenario with you. So we had this client come over. He wanted to buy this property. I mean, he contacted me actually after he had already, had this experience. So he shared it with me in confidence. So I'm not going to mention his name. So I'm sharing this experience because I know that you too can learn something out of it. So he saw this property, he was interested, he was really looking forward to buying it. So there were two properties he had in mind. On reaching out to this realtor, he saw the property on YouTube, like we are all relating. So he reached out to the realtor, made further inquiry and everything, only to realize that the coordinate that was assigned to him as this property, on further confirmation, he realized that the coordinates they had the same coordinate. Mind you, a coordinate is not supposed to be, they are unique numbers, so no two properties can have the same coordinate. So if a property already has the same coordinate, it means the coordinate is faulted. So if he never got to chart the coordinate to actually know, to get a history about that property, he wouldn't have known that these two properties were actually, one of those properties, let me talk a reference, one of those properties was actually a cemetery assigned by the government. So all of these, like you might be asking, how did these people get to know all of this in data? It's just like a house, like a land, a space. Every space, every data about a property, about properties in Lagos are within a register within the Ministry of Lands. So they have every future project, whatever plan the government has is already in there. So they coordinate the charts or whatever. I'm not going to go deep into that information, okay? I want us to focus on coordinates, so I try to be focused on this so I don't talk about other stuff. But either way, though, the core thing we need to drive home is this: if he never got to chart the coordinates, he wouldn't have known that this property was actually a cemetery based on the government plans for that place, and it was a government acquired property. And the risk around properties like this, you can't fight government because it's not yours. So people had already spent so much money buying those properties without even knowing that they are buying a property that doesn't belong to a land space, that doesn't belong to that property. So as a property buyer, if you're buying a property in a place that is already faulted, based on the fact that you didn't get information about by charting the coordinate of that property, you might be at risk of losing your entire money because there's no other way around these things. The property is not yours. Why I know it's wrong, it's a wrong practice. So is the idea, the idea about this information is not to start blaming developers or start blaming government for not doing their work. The idea is for us to take personal responsibility for ourselves. So when next you're trying to buy a property, hire a surveyor, get a person to chart the coordinate of that place to ensure that this property is free from every form of acquisition and it's rightfully within the ownership of the person the information says it belongs to. So that way you save yourself 90% of the hassle and stress that comes with, property issues. So number two thing you can do as a property buyer is to get title verification. So oftentimes we confuse these two things together. Charting a coordinate gives you information about a property, but title verification, it verifies what the property already says it has. For instance, now you're about to buy a house in Ikoyi, and the house looks good, but you don't know. I mean, on paper, these things might look nice and cute and beautiful, but how do you verify those information? Because before I go in deep, let me share a personal experience. It was actually not a personal experience. Actually, it was a realtor friend that shared it with me of what happened to their clients. So apparently, these people bought a property. It's a large estate, like a very large estate, big estate. They had bought this property some years back, only to realize, like coming back, I mean, it was on subscription, they had a payment plan to it. So they had finished making payment for this property. The property was fully developed. So it was a lot of people, some people have moved into the estate, while some people were still trying to get around it, only to realize being served that this property is within the ownership of the bank, that the developer faulted, did not complete payments, and I didn't come back and use the property as a collateral. So that's a very devastating scenario, and believe me, nobody wants to be in that scenario because I mean the court hassle and all of those things, those headache is not good. It's not good for you. So nobody should have to go through that. So it was a very, very devastating scenario because this property cost hundreds of millions, and so this is why verification is very, very important. Verification gives you insight and ascertains that every information this thing says it has, that it actually does. So for instance, how do you go about carrying out verification? The only person that can help you give adequate information about a property is a service of a real estate attorney, and I'm talking about an experienced and professional real estate attorney. These are the only person that can give you vivid information and help you ensure that the property you're about to buy is duly verified. However, be aware and be conscious, because not everybody is out there actually for your good. Some people, some real estate attorneys might see a property, the property has no issues, but just because they want to sell you their own, they have personal interests, so they are trying to maneuver. So they might tell you a property is bad, meanwhile there's nothing wrong about it. So the best way to go about it is to follow through in every step of the process and just follow your intuition to know the right attorney suitable for you. So an attorney during the verification process will speak to, probably in most cases, depending on the scenarios and situations around the property, you might speak to previous owners of that property to ensure that they actually consented to the transactions. You look through the deed of assignment governing that property and ensure that the signatories of that properties are the rightful people, are rightful owners, or people that have rights over that properties. And things like court verification to ensure that, like my colleague scenario, that the person didn't use this property as a collateral to get a loan, and you're not, coming in to inherit inherit someone's wahala. So it is very, very critical and very important, and will save you tons and tons of stress when buying a property. So the third and last thing you can do to avoid possible demolition or any other real estate, entanglement is, guess it. All right, you didn't guess it right. So the third thing you can do, which is very, very critical and very important, is getting approval from necessary agencies before building. So approvals comes in different stages, When it comes to Nigeria, we know how it is at the moment. There are a lot of agencies necessary for every step of the process. So, for instance, before going about building, some of them you have to settle the land authorities or money lease or whatever. So, without all of this doing, without doing all of this, they might come after you. The core aspect of approval you really need, because the money lease, they are just unofficial bodies and they only come to play during the building process. When a building is fully built, it's expected the builder must have, sorted all of those out. So the core approval you really need to avoid demolition is a building plan approval. A building plan approval is given by the government, the state government of that place. So what a building plan approval helps you as a buyer is to ensure that the government has given consent and approval that the details and information on the building plan, a building plan is more like a mental picture of what the building or the property is going to be looking like, to help you give a sense of direction. It's like giving a structure to a story. All right, so I hope we understand ourselves. So the essence of a building plan approval is to ensure that the appropriate body, which is the state government, has given approval for that property to go ahead and become a building. One of the core reasons most developers try to shy away from getting a building plan is because of the processes. To be honest, Nigeria sometimes is stressful. So the same thing goes. I mean, developers are also taking the heat from all of these experiences. So the same thing goes for developers. The other reason most developers try to shy away from getting a building plan approval is, for instance, maybe they're trying to build terraces, blocks of terraces. Normally, maybe based on the land size, the kind of property that would contain that space will probably be 2 units of terraces, but it doesn't really make financial sense for the developer. So they want to be able to harness and make better and more use of that space. So getting a building plan approval that becomes so they try to go around the other route and just sort out the sorts and get the building done. And then the challenge is when government decides to carry out mass supervision on all these properties, you might fall prey or become a victim of to it, because without a building plan approval, you don't really necessarily have an authority to have that property within that space. So you might become a victim of demolishing in most cases. So what can you do as a buyer is to fuse all of this information together, and when you're looking out forward to buying a property, wherever the location is, irrespective of where and how much the property costs, just follow through diligently through this process, and you will never have to be a victim of any scenario like demolition. And then the other route you can go around it is to partner with an agency that does all of this work for yourself. Like my agency, Real Estate with Sally, before we undertake any development, we sell property or advise clients or buyers to buy a property. We ensure that the property or the developer are able to have all of this information. We ensure that the property has a building plan approval, and all of these verifications are done. But we equally still encourage our buyers to carry out their own due diligence for them, because whatever we're doing it for ourselves to protect our buyers. But you as a buyer, you still need to carry out those processes for yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And by the way, if you're currently looking forward to investing within the real estate space, there is an amazing, beautiful property currently selling within the Shangotedo axis. This is a waterfront property, and this is one property I so much believe in, because I believe in the potential of that property to bring out so much massive return on investment for investors. It is not every day you get to see a property with so much potential, and I'm talking about massive, beautiful, big potential. This is a waterfront property, and waterfront properties in Lagos is one of the high flyers when it comes to investment properties. So if you're ever looking forward to buying a property or investing within the real estate space, and you need direction, you need someone to guide you and show you the right property to buy, I highly encourage you to call me, text me via the link on the description, or call me directly, and I'll be happy and helpful to help you choose a right property that will generate good return on investment for you. And even this property I'm making suggestion on is a waterfront property, and it will generate good return on investment for you. So if you're ever looking for to buy, feel free to reach out, and I'll be here and happy to help you make that decision. And don't forget, we post videos here every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. So be a part of the community, subscribe to the channel, and you would enjoy it. Until next time, it's Salome again, and see you on the next one.